So, how many of you have been following along or understanding this issue of the ESGs? ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. It fits in with a global framework of how everything is going to be together in lockstep with your what you think, what you do, your behavior, your work, your school, the entire social structure of society. It's all going to be antichrist in nature, very anti-biblical worldview. It is like the three main components of a Luciferian New World Order world agenda is really the best way to try to explain it. Everything will eventually, through carrot and stick, through techno-communism, be forced onto this way of thinking, this way of behaving, this 1984 control mechanism, and all the pieces helping to solidify this Luciferian point of view for everything. It's kind of a broad topic, but it's where everything is going. It is not based on an old system of you having freedom or you having your own rights, thoughts, and feelings. It is about you getting on board with lockstep. It is about you being conformed and manipulated into what to think, what to feel, what to say, how to say it, what you accept, what you promote. It is evil. It is just pure evil. And your worth then is determined on whether you conform to all of these things or not. And you throw in the mechanism of the Chinese credit score and the techno-communism and the global elite. And you are a prisoner. A lot more could be said about that. I had heard Glenn Beck, who I am not unaware of the fact he's a Mormon, and I am not unaware of the fact that he is likely controlled opposition, but I have heard him discussing this issue with regard to the corporate fascism and how all of the employees will all be what you say and what you think and what you do, like HR Nazism. You will not have a job unless you conform to their set of beliefs and ideals, and then you act upon them. And then it's every corporation, it's every business, it's every school, it's every job, it's every interaction, it's every commercial pushing it. It is every newscaster pushing this new world order philosophy and the behaviors and what you value, and all based on this carrot or stick approach brought to you by the beautiful communists who don't care about you or your thoughts or your feelings or your freedoms. And it's all based on your compliance. And they really don't care at all about you. They just want a world full of people that are yes men to Luciferian propaganda. Period. End of story. That's simple. And it shapes the whole world. It shapes where the whole world is going. You see this fig tree of this Luciferian beast kingdom proliferating, this kingdom rule, these kingdom values, these perversions of how a society is run, what is expected of a society. The old way used to honor differences and allow people to hash it out and talk about things in everywhere. This new world order is we tell you what to say, think, and do, and then you comply. And if you don't, we just make you disappear. And a lot more could be said, but that's just to kind of make it simple. You can see with the ESGs, so again, the environmental control systems, the social control systems, there's probably a lot to this with relationships, but you should understand that religions are extremely heavily put into this category. And so there's right think and there's wrong think. And wrong think is Jesus and his exclusivity. All paths lead to God, they would say. And you saying that Jesus is the only way, well, that's wrong think. Do you understand how that works? And then just governance for this. We're going to fix society and bring a society of peace and safety through all of this control. And they're going to use the AI, and they're going to use the robots, they're going to use the humans in positions of power and control. And it is going to be a slavery dystopian 1984 nightmare from the pit of hell through every area of life. Now you see here that they were quite honest in telling you that the ESGs, again, so the ESGs, environmental, social, and governance, are actually part of the framework for the UN's sustainable, goals that they've had for a really long time. And so you are being trained like a dog through these goals. I think everybody has seen these. They use these beautiful, rich colors. They make it seem like we've got something really good we're going to do, right? Who doesn't want to help poor people? But see, what they don't tell you is that by helping poor people, they just want to knock off the poor people. You don't exist anymore. We helped you. So it's this trying to achieve peace and safety, but it's all built on a big, giant lie, right? And it's this tracking everything that you say, think, and do, and you get a score. It's for every corporation. It's for every institution. It is for everything on this planet. It is for every family. It will impact everything. You will not just be able to work at a job and live your little peaceful life. No, 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 no. This is about full bore Luciferian compliance. And you will comply. This is what is setting up. This is the proliferation of the fig tree that Christ talked about. And there's probably lots of layers to that, which we talked about in a ton of videos. But this whole completely new way of governing everything through the hidden hand, through the communist global governance, through the technology, which are really just the fallen angels, really, to be perfectly honest, with the technology being used to track your every action, your every word, and squashing your freedom, squashing your rights, squashing your ability to worship who you want, because this is ultimately about getting everybody under the same umbrella of the anti-church Babylonian horror of all the world religions, all the big adulterous world religions who do not worship Christ. They have another Christ, all together in lockstep. And you see the people, Revelation 17, and they get really bloody. They get really bloodthirsty. This power and control that they wield, because their stick is covered in blood, right? The carrot and the stick is covered in blood, right? And she gets power hungry with major bloodlust, big time. And God judges that through judgments to the damned, to the unrepentant evil. And then you see in Revelation 18 the whole world setup infrastructure, and you've got to understand that AI is just a massive part of that. It's interesting here that they've actually taken the goals, wow, and broken them up into the environmental, into the social, and into the governance. Like, goodbye freedom. Bye-bye. It was nice knowing you. You're not going to have it anymore if you choose to not get into Christ and his program that he has for his people. ESG related impacts, look at that, of AI with the SDG. Wow. Holy mackerel. Now, you will understand that here in this grouping of the social ones that I want to look at, you'll understand that number 3 here is about your health and well-being. And so this is what you're experiencing right now, since this whole, we want to put this thing in your chicken wing that's just going to be so wonderful for you. It's 100% safe and 100% effective. But that's all built on this house of lies, right? Where you have people all over TikTok and many other places that are reaching out, crying out for help because of absolutely debilitating, dangerous, life-threatening injuries and adverse events, hospitalizations, and various other impending injuries, up to and including death, as a result of people being tricked into putting that thing in their chicken wing through existing trusted pharmacies and existing social structures like hospitals and whatnot. If you can't trust your doctor, who can you trust? Well, you can't trust anybody, because you have this Luciferian snare and deception taking place for the proliferation of this New World Order kingdom symbol of the tree proliferating in the new management of everything. And again, your value is not based on that God made you. That's the old way of thinking. Your value is based on compliance. And even then, even if you do comply, if they end your suffering, haven't they done a good thing in their twisted thinking of justifying their evil and justifying mass murder of people? In their minds, they just paint it as, we set them free, right? That's how that works. The evil. Neil Donald Walsh, he talked all about this in his creepy conversations with God. It was a book he wrote. He heard this voice and it said it was God, and he went, cool. As you read this new age nonsense of evil, you will find out, yeah, touching the divine. You will find out that this man was communing with satanic fallen entities, demons, and what have you. And their whole thinking about death is that it's a blessing. It is a blessing, because you are setting that person free from their suffering. And so that's the undergirding of their justification for bumping off huge amounts of society. And I mean, if they told you that outright, like if Biden got on stage and told you that, you probably wouldn't comply. So they dress it in trickery, and it's all inverted. This is why Isaiah warned you in Isaiah 5:20. He said that they, what are those who invert the light for the darkness, the bitter for the sweet, and so on and so forth, the evil for the good, right? So also this number 1, no poverty. I mean, this It's their first goal. We want to end poverty. Well, are you going to do that by making sure there's enough food for everybody? No. They're creating the conditions right for famine. It's not to preserve your life and aid you. It's to steal the land you live on and get rid of you and call that good and sacrifice those people to Lucifer, who they think is the hero, and Yahweh is the bad guy. It's all inverted. It's all Gnostic. It's messed up. The other thing, number 16 here, I know this one from a long time worth of studying, number 16. This has to do with we will pick the way that you are allowed to worship and who. And so, again, you keep hearing about all of this racism, right? But it's not racism based on the old definition of skin color / culture. It is based on elevating pantheism and panentheism. So God is all, God is in all, to the forefront of favored status, right? Like all the religions are favored status, except for the wrong thing, the Christian, those mean Christians that say that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, right? And so from the perspective of Lucifer, you could absolutely see how he would not want to highlight anything good having to do with getting under the one new mankind in Christ, the heir with the co-heirs and taking over the world, which Christ does when he's all ready, and booting Satan and his minions into hell. You could see how Lucifer would invert all of that and make that to be bad, which is why they're pushing this whole narrative of racism and CRT, critical race theory, and all this stuff. They want to get it in the schools. They want to get, right? That's part of the social thing, right? The governance, the social thing, the environment, all of it, elevating the earth and the people and the Luciferian religions to the forefront of good, while at the same time, and their tolerance, they are very tolerant and diverse, they actually will subjugate and punish Christianity, because that is the truth. So, I mean, you really see this game that's being played here. This is a complete control structure. This has to do with the, you've heard of the cancel culture thing, right? That's the stick, the bloody stick. Like, we'll just destroy you. If you don't agree with what we say, we'll just destroy you in the name of tolerance and justice and goodness, right? So they vilify that which is legitimately good. What's driving the ESG investing trend? Oh, right. There's also this whole thing with, well, we'll tell you what's good and what you should put your money into and what companies that you should rally around and purchase products from, and so on and so forth. And again, it's this top down, we say what is, and then you comply and follow along, lockstep, one direction. You go where we want you to go, and we punish whatever it is that stands in Christ, or normality. It sounds like there is a lot to this. It is definitely a topic worth really digging into, because this is the way that the whole entire world is going to be going. Look at this. Environmental focuses on a company's, and it's not just a company, but for what they're saying here, environmental disclosure, environmental impact, and any efforts to reduce pollution or carbon emissions. And it's to reduce you. And I know the tree. If you have watched any of my videos where I am hyper-focusing on the tree, that rival beast kingdom that's rising up, that Daniel warned us about, Daniel 2, Daniel 7, we were warned about by Christ. This is the thing. And again, many layers to it. But basically, the creation is way more important than you. If you don't conform, your value is based on your conformity. Social refers to the workplace, mentality, for example, diversity, management, human rights, You, Christian, don't have any human rights. You're not even a human, they would say, as well as any relationships surrounding the community, for example, corporate citizenship and philanthropy. Governance accounts for compensation, shareholder rights. There's a lot that could be said about that. And the relationship between the shareholder and management. And we're just kind of touching on a few basic, simple things here. And again, the whole thing is completely a big fat giant lie meant to put all of the power and control in the hands of the few and to kill you, to torture you and kill you. ESG rating, right? Ratings, because you've got to have the social scores from the computers and AI and the demonic entities that will take things away from you if you do not follow along. Can you think of anything that's happening right now where they want to take something away from you if you don't do what they say? That's part of this. That's part of the model for how they're going to manage and mold society. You're being trained like a dog in it right now. Supply chain, environmental, biodiversity, climate change, pollution and resources, water security. Yeah, they're taking all the water. They are hosing the supply chain like sabotage form. It all has to do with this. All of the governments are aware of this. You hear on the news, oh no, there's 50 trillion, bajillion, quadrillion ships that are sitting out there and they don't know how to unload stuff and they can't get it out. No, it's all a farce. It's all a big fat giant lie. It is all created and maintained by these evil people. And social customer responsibility, this is for the workplace now. This will go everywhere. Health and safety, human rights and community, labor standards. Now, for this one, it will be all about how you affirm things that God says he doesn't like. Maybe that's why he talks about the cowardly will be the ones that are thrown into hell that refuse to repent as unrepentant evil and get into him. And that is the very, very, very first adjective of people, of characteristics in the old Adam that are thrown into the lake of the fire. In Revelation 21:8, he says the cowardly. The cowardly. If you hate the truth and would rather stay in the lie because you're a big giant chicken weenie, God don't like that. And there's a consequence for that. And evidently the truth costs. There's just some weird thing about that the truth will cost you. And then later everybody will get their consequence. In governance for, again, supply chain and the workplace, anti-corruption, corporate governance, risk management, tax transparency, and the government just all up in everybody's things. Everybody. No privacy, because in order for them to have complete and total control, you cannot maintain privacy. You cannot maintain freedom. You cannot maintain anything that does not correspond to the lockstep program of control. It's a total global management system to manipulate you and force you into this trifecta of slavery from hell in every way possible that they can shove it down into you through people like Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum and the governments of the world who care very little for you. They just want to manage you and control you and eliminate you after stealing all your money and wealth out of the dollar. That's what's going on. And dare I say, because you were created by God, I think they hate your guts. And they just want to steal everything like a bunch of thieves. There's actually quite a lot going on here. I just typed in Beck ESG. Again, he's a Mormon. He believes that he's going to become God and have endless, whatever with his spirit wife or whatever. They're going to become gods and populate worlds and all that stuff. I am not unaware of the fact that he is a Mormon and believes that. Of course, that is as antichrist as you can get. And obviously, he's probably controlled opposition. I get that. They have to take this complex information and they're kind of leakers that are influencers that bring it out to the rest of society so that you go in the direction that they want. This is the covert form of manipulation within the social sphere. I'm aware of that, but I need to understand what's going on, and so I listen to it. Great reset. So this is coming through the Great Reset. It's really important to understand that. So again, it's that same thing that Christ was talking about. There's layers to it with the proliferation of the fig tree generation. And the other trees, when you look at Christ's words in Matthew 24 and also Luke 21. It has nothing to do with Israel being born as a nation, because that's not what Scripture teaches. That's brainwashing from the zygote liars that has nothing to do with the proliferation of this evil. Although it does say that God will bring the Jews back to the land, there is nothing in Scripture about them being born again as a land. God is making a group of people born again as a new creation. So anyhow, Great Reset, ESG, credit scores could affect every aspect of your life. This is pretty interesting to understand. And you will understand who is behind it. So World Economic Forum, as well as these R fellers people right there. Yeah. ESG and credit risk and ratings. So if you don't say, think, and do what we want you to, we don't give you money for credit, right? It's this whole manipulation thing. Slavery-based evil. And of course, you have the left-leaning, liberal, communist bad guys behind it, and the corporations, this corporate fascism tied to government, tied to the social structure of everything, that all work together to manipulate you in the direction that they want you to go. Biden's economic endgame part one, the nominee who would radically transform our economy forever, is a Chinese communist who grew up in communist Russia. So drink that in. So there's a lot that you can plumb from this just by doing your own research and just understanding this control structure. What is ESG? No more freedom for you. Well, everything is being changed. Our economy is collapsing by design. Everything is about to change. Yes, because it all goes in accord with this predetermined governance, sustainability, getting rid of you, getting rid of freedom, getting rid of America, getting rid of those pesky, some of them, not all, Christians in America, freedom. A lot more could be said, right? This forcing of this global climate nonsense. It's all Club of Rome lies. He has a pretty good handle on it, and he does a fair and good job of explaining it. Look, World Economic Forum, implementing ESGs for corporate governance, Sustainable Development Summit 2020. While the whole world was dying with that horrible disease, they were over here planning your complete and total takeover. Gee, you think one might have something to do with the other? That's just weird. So anyhow, this is a huge topic. I don't think most people have the slightest clue what this is or where it's going to be taking the world and how they're going to be manipulated. But this is a good 10 minutes. So let's play this.
Here's what's happening right now. Here's how masks and Dr. Seuss are the same story. They are intentional distractions. As long as you can keep the American people divided, arguing about Dr. Seuss and arguing over masks, you can do anything. And huge things are being done right now on a global level. And there is going to come a time when your best friend, or even you, if you decide not to pursue this line of thinking, you will say, when did this happen? Right now. And it has been happening, I believe, for at least 10 years. This is one of the best laid out plans I have ever seen. You want to talk about, star chambers or secret combinations. This is the textbook case of it, except they're not in hiding. They're right out in the open. We're just distracted and divided. The only hope we have is to come together and say, wait a minute, yeah, Dr. Seuss, whatever. What is it that you just did yesterday? Now, if we can come together on these things, we can stop it. I'm going to show you just one piece. Last night on my Wednesday night special, it is crucial, please, that you watch it. Somebody said to me last night, Glenn, I can't watch it. It's too depressing. What can we do? I'll tell you at the end of the hour exactly what you can do. And it is probably the most important thing you will ever do in your life. And it will change the course of your life and possibly change the course of your country, because it will change the course of your family's life. It is critical. And I'll give that to you in just a minute. Let me just go through what is happening on one part of the Great Reset. Banks have always been the helper for capitalism, but you have to understand capitalism is changing. It's no longer shareholder capitalism. It is stakeholder capitalism. And the stakeholders are the government, the companies, the CEOs, and you. You're a stakeholder, but you're not part of any of the decisions. Your government at the federal level is making all of the decisions in your name. That is exactly how they describe it. What? We're not leaving people out. The government is doing the decision, and it's an elected government. Uh-huh. And all of the people who are the stakeholder deciders, they're all going to be wildly wealthy. This is the biggest heist and the biggest cage ever constructed in global history. Last night, I showed you a lot of things, but I showed you the Paris Climate Accords. And why is that so important? What was the big deal? I mean, it was nothing. It was nothing. Well, I showed you last night, it wasn't the Paris Climate Accord that everybody was watching. It was the secondary meetings that were happening there. They were happening with the banks, the biggest banks around the world. 450 different banks got together. Now, American banks, I thought, were not involved at the beginning. I couldn't find Bank of America or Chase Manhattan that were there. And you still, up until recently, you couldn't find anything. And you would say, well, that's it because they're not involved, which I don't buy at all, and I have evidence of it now. But also, maybe they're in hiding because they don't want people thinking that they're taking their, orders from the UN and climate activists. You might think, hey, I'm going to get my money out of Bank of America and Chase Manhattan and the 5 biggest banks in the country because they're in doing something that I don't agree with at all. That is my assumption of why they have stayed out of this for so long, but they haven't actually stayed out of it. What caught our eye was at this, meeting of the Paris Climate Accords was the Amalgamated Bank of the U.S. Now, what is that? The reason why this caught our eye is because it's the biggest union bank in the country. They're owned by Workers United, which is an affiliate of SEIU. You say SEIU to me, and I immediately know something is really wrong. Now, I mentioned last night's show that the World Bank and the UN were collaborating at a global level back at 2015, and the U.S. financial institutions were basically a no-show. But then we found that a private banking group in the Netherlands took their methodology and created a private organization called the Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials, or PCAF. So this has come from a global organization, and then a private group says, oh, that's a great idea. We're going to do that. And so they do it. And that's where Amalgamated Bank comes in. Oh. They took their private model based off the UN Paris Accord Initiative and led the charge to begin implementation here in America. So it's a labor union and their bank doing this. Now, earlier this week, I told you that a friend of mine sent me something that they got from Merrill Lynch. Well, that friend of mine is Justin Haskins. And
thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
I'm glad to be your friend.
I love that. So tell me about what they got from Merrill Lynch.
Right. So a coworker of mine logs into his Merrill Lynch account. Not a rich guy, just a regular guy. Got his 401k in Merrill Lynch. Logs into his Merrill Lynch account, and up pops this really friendly, amazing notice that you've got your very own ESG score, your environment, social, and governance score. Scores in all three categories and an overall score. And unfortunately, my degenerate friend, 4.7 overall score out of 10. So not doing very well on the ESG scale.
This is akin to you getting a score. You think you have a score of maybe 700, for your credit score, and all of a sudden you find out that you have a score of 300. What are you going to be able to buy? How are you going to get a loan? Are you going to be able to buy a car, a house, or anything else? This credit score is going through the financial sector and the banks, and you'll understand why this is so bad here in a second. So when you get this, it is based on things from Merrill Lynch on the companies that you are buying. So if you want to buy stock and you think guns are going to be great and they're going to go up, they have a very low, what's called ESG score, environmental, social justice, and governance score. And so they have a very low rating, which means the banks are very unlikely to give them any money. So you can say, I really believe in this technology, but if it's not politically correct, it will have a low score. That will punish that company in financing. But you say, screw it, I believe in this company. You now get a low ESG score. And they say this is just to help you invest. But that's not what it is. That's the happy face. The other side of that is it's your score. So the bank now looks at you and says, well, you have an ESG score of 4. You're not playing along with the environment. You're not for social justice. How can I trust that you're going to do something that is worthwhile for this collective community? So now you don't get loans. Now, the overall score, you're going to be graded, and your risk to the bank is assessed based on things and services you buy. This is from their report. The things and services you buy. Well, are you a member of Blaze TV?
Ugh.
Are you?
I hope not.
Are you? Have you bought a gun recently? Have you done? Are you collected food storage? What are you talking about? Things and services that you buy, how much electricity you use, if you own a business, How much travel is involved? How much do your employees commute, or can they all work from home? How many buildings do you own? How many company vehicles are there? What do you invest in? Now, if you answer those incorrectly, you're going to be giving a very low score. Now, it's not going to affect me until you read their own documents at the bank. In their own disclosures, personal mortgages, commercial real estate, business loans, listed equity, energy finance, car loans, every aspect of your life you will be cut out of. You won't be getting a car loan. This is just the beginning.
Ugh.
Medicine is also going to be controlled by the federal government. If you don't play ball, if you're eating meat, I'm sorry, we can't give you that medicine.
Oh.
It is total control.
RidgePointFellowship.com did a pretty fantastic Daniel 7 chart marrying the significance of the statue with the significance of the kingdoms, and everybody does a pretty good job with the first 3 to 4, but I really appreciate the fact that they conceived of this future embodiment during the Great Tribulation with this symbolic entity for the fourth industrial revolution, with all of this technology being used against us, because that's what's going on. That's exactly what's going to go on. Daniel 7:7-8, and after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth, the technology iron. It was devouring, breaking into pieces, trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the other beasts before it, right? Because they didn't rely on technology like this one does, this communistic technology. And it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little horn, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by their roots. That's interesting. Something's going to happen to 3 entities. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. So horn is the power of an animal, therefore it has to do with, power, raw power. And then he also incorporates in the stone in the kingdom of Christ when everything is said and done, the good news. So, I mean, just scrawl AI on top of this with the technology. That is a pretty cool chart, I must say. Somebody worked really hard on that. And these ESGs are part of the bullet, if you will. If this is the gun, then those are the bullets with which to destroy and control humanity. And there will, evil has no moment where it goes, okay, I'm done. I've had enough. That's not the way evil works. Evil keeps on going and going and going. Anyhow, a lot more could be said, but that's where we are. That's what's setting up. So yeah, this is the development of this rival beast kingdom. And the hidden hand is behind it. She never has to take responsibility for anything. You're watching it proliferate right now. And summer is the tribulation. All of it's setting up. In Luke 21:29, so on and so forth, he adds, and all the trees. So you've got J's in unbelief, and you've got G's in unbelief that are creating this. This whole nother beast kingdom setting up. Hasn't been deployed yet, but it's setting up.